Hey folks, when people beyond South Africa's borders hear the word apartheid, they generally have some vague sense of a legal system which granted white people access to opportunities and resources which were denied to non-whites. And while this is true in the general sense, I often think that people who are not from South Africa don't understand the practical impact that apartheid had and continues to have on shaping the culture of South Africa. One aspect of this that I'd like to cover in today's video is how apartheid legislation shaped the geography of South Africa. You see, during apartheid, it was forbidden by law for whites and non-whites to gather together socially unless there was some official or professional reason for doing so. If you were found to be involved in a romantic interracial relationship, you could actually be sent to prison for your participation in that. And because of this, there is a wide gap which persists to this day between the different racial communities in South Africa. The main reason for this being that during apartheid, where people lived was not governed by freedom of movement or free choice. The government decided which areas of land would belong to which racial groups, and these borders were strictly enforced. So, because people lived this way for decades, that kind of idea of separate living has been strongly inculcated into the South African way of life. We have black communities, white communities, Indian communities, and colored communities to this day. And although because the laws are obviously no longer still in place, there is quite a bit of overlap these days. For many people, those old rules still apply. In South African slang, black communities are often referred to as townships. And the ugly fact is that if a white person wanders into a township without a resident there watching their back or there basically to vouch that they're okay, then if they wander down the wrong street, they might not make it out with everything they had on them when they went in. In much the same way, and it saddens me to say this, but it is true, when a black person who is not known within a white suburb is seen wandering around and their purpose there is not known, people are suspicious of them, and it does in fact lead to racial profiling, often unfairly so. But that's just the way things are. I wish this was not the case, but it is. So my point here is to show how legislation that ended decades ago still plays a role in shaping South African life. You would think that the African National Congress, our ruling party, would seek to heal this division. After all, it is what Nelson Mandela was primarily known for during his tenure as South Africa's president. And on the international stage, it is fair to say that that is how South African leaders choose to speak. They go on at length about high-minded ideals of non-racialism and equality. But you see, they only do that for the international press. At the local level, they quite freely use racial identity politics and the sowing of division along ethnic and tribal lines to maintain the base of their power. They are well known for reminding their voter base, remember what these whites did to you. You must never let a white person gain political power ever again, or they will reinstate apartheid. Now, rational people understand that given the technological advances that have been made in terms of global communication and social media, a system like apartheid could never be re-established because the news would spread before it really got going again. But unfortunately, the African National Congress has done its level best to keep the majority of South Africans uneducated about the way the modern world works, and therefore a lot of people are inclined to simply believe what the leaders tell them, because tribal culture says that one must respect whatever comes out of the mouth of someone who is in a position of authority. There is also great irony in the fact that South African politicians are very fond of pretending to be men and women of the people who fought in the struggle for racial equality. And they do this in Parliament week to week. Little known to their followers that afterwards they go home to stereotypically white suburbs and live in very well fortified and guarded palatial properties. So, in many ways, South Africa is a land of contradiction, and I can't explain how everything works in one video, or hell, even in a series of videos. But I hope that by talking about these things, you understand that the paradigm here is not as simple as black versus white, as much as our leaders would like you to believe that it is. For now, farewell.